last few days, I a couple of times discussed the concept of cryptocurrencies backed by actual governments. And I'm very skeptical about it personally because, in fact, I think one of the big attractions of Bitcoin is it's not backed by a government, because when there's a currency like US dollar which is backed by a government, it means that they have a button that they're using very frequently to print lots of money. You have no control over this. They can push a button, lots of zeros, lots of money is created. Not so much with Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrencies. The whole idea is limited supply. So I think with a government-backed cryptocurrency, that actually will not be as attractive to many people. Like to me personally, I can tell you that for sure the case, because I will not trust them.
People ask, what is Bitcoin backed by? It's backed by over $1 billion of computing power in terms of resources. There is over 2 billion in transactions done on chain. It's backed by tangible assets. It's also backed by belief. It's backed by cryptography and a bunch of other things. And this whole concept of state-backed cryptocurrency is almost antithetical to the whole idea, right? So if you think about it from a philosophical perspective, cryptocurrencies are a great way to track the movement of assets, right? Be it money or otherwise. And so if you have certain states, like let's say China and Russia, for example, who have been the most vocal in terms of adoption, it's actually a great authoritarian tool. It's great to track everything, great to track all the movement of money, who owns what and where and why. And so then you get into like very sketchy, dystopian sort of scenarios. And so I think it's also it's good to be wary of those sort of things.
The question of what makes Bitcoin or Ethereum interesting is not in the ability for anyone to control it, is for the fact that your assets are not sitting in some sort of an account that's held by some sort of centralized party, right? So the idea is that if you have a state-backed central currency, at the end of the day, they're still holding money sitting in vaults or sitting in banks, right? Which really kind of diminishes the entire purpose. I mean, the idea of the database allows you to shift value across different intermediaries, and if it's from a bank's perspective, they're still having to hold your money. So their ability to confiscate or stop or change the history or the state of that actual value base is sitting within their ability.
We spoke last question about the value of Bitcoin. It allows you to send money internationally faster and cheaper than our current financial system. So it provides value, and there's incredible network effects. So the demand for the 21 million of Bitcoin will only increase as more people realize that you can move money internationally faster and cheaper than with the Canadian dollar.
How long and how big does Bitcoin have to become in order for a central bank to buy large quantities of it as a way to ensure the stability of the GDP or the global outlook that you have on the entire ability to change global currency prices or value?
It's not inconceivable to think that some government in the future would use it as a reserve or hold some reserves, because if you look back in the last, like, let's say 16 to 24 months, Bitcoin is a hedge against geopolitical strife and volatility. So you can graph how Bitcoin's gone up during Brexit, during all sorts of geopolitical strife over the last few years. There's a very obvious correlation.
I'm really excited to see the first press release that a government or financial institution purchases a % of digital currency as a reserve. I think that when that happens, the price will rocket.
Fire!